Hey guys, welcome to Indie Game Hustle. My name is Charles, and in this video, we're going to take a look at our players' lives and adding some additional lives to that number. Let's take a look at what we had before. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play here. And I have my game creator preferences window with our variables, our beautiful variables over here. And so we have our players' lives set to 3. That's going to be our base number, our max number. And then we have the number listed here. So let's go ahead and get attacked. All right, we got hit there. And we'll wait for him to decide to turn around. All right, so we're going to get hit. And once we die, of course, we have a message saying player died. And then it's going to transfer us to a scene that basically says our lives are remaining down to 2. And then it's going to take us back to that scene and start us off at the checkpoint as which we last was connected to. And of course, now the number is displaying 2. So that's pretty good. That works out pretty good. What I want to do, however, is continue off where we started there. But what I want is when we die, if you noticed, let's go ahead and die again. I'm going to die quickly. One more hit. Cool. That number didn't change. I think I'm going to have that number change. I think that's a good indicator that something happened. And I want that to do that, just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And let's see how we can make that number change immediately. And it should be pretty easy. So the first thing I want to do is go into my game manager. And I want to take a look at my canvas. I'm going to go into the HUD. And I'm going to go into the player HUD. Now, inside the player's HUD, we have the player lives, right? And let's just go ahead and take a look at that. I'm going to double click on the canvas. And I'm going to just turn it on. And great. So all we need to do for this is, right now we have a trigger. And this trigger says on start, it needs to change the text. And that's pretty easy, right? On start, change text. So what I'm going to do is name this trigger, and I'm just going to say on start, change text. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do. I just want to make sure I have that listed. All right, so what I'm going to do is actually copy, so Control D, and instead what I'm going to do is we're going to do on variable change with this one. So this action or this trigger is going to, instead of on start, we're going to say on variable change. So on a variable change, and the variable change that we want is player lives. So then we want it to then change the text, right? So what I'll do is say on var change, we can leave text, and then I'll say on start. Just like that. So that just kind of tells me what those triggers are doing. That's all that really doing. So now what it should do, as soon as we die, that number should change because it should be recognized. So that trigger will trigger off when that number changes, right? So let's go ahead and hit play and see if that works. All right, great. So we got that. And of course you don't see that. So what I need to do is, remember, we need to turn off the player HUD. Cool. All right, so let's do it again. And I think it's coming together pretty good. We're getting a nice little game almost here. So we got our player getting hit. Looking great. Moved on me. All right, so player died, and did it change? It did not change. And the reason it didn't change, of course it didn't change because it doesn't know. It didn't change because it doesn't know. So what that tells me is I think I want to go back to the original idea that I had instead of having the variable change inside the UI, the player UI scene. I think I'm going to have it change when the player actually dies, right? So what I'll do is go here. I'm going to go into my project robot boy, and I'm going to go into my player. And on the actions, I'm just going to go ahead and add that action back. And I'm going to go to variables, and I'll just go to, where is it at? Math. And I'm just going to put it at the top just like before. And then I'm just going to do player lives, and I'm just going to do a negative here. So I want that to do that. I think this would be better in the long run. So let's see. And what I'll do is go back. So that's working. So that's going to reduce. So what we need to now do is remove that from the scene, the other one. So I'm going to go save project. And let's go into our world. And I'm going to go to menu, players lives menu. And then I'm going to go into, I think it's on my canvas trigger. And here I'm going to get rid of this math expression. I'm also going to get rid of this and get rid of this. So all this is going to do is when this trigger starts, it's going to just basically say, it's going to wait for a second. Actually, we don't want it to wait for a second. We just want it to change lives immediately. So as soon as the scene starts, I want it to already display whatever our life was changed to. Fair enough? All right, cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit play, hit save, and then I'm going to go back into my other scene. And let's see how this feels. All right, hit that. All right, so let's just see how this feels. And I'm sure there's another way we could probably work that out, but I really would prefer this way. So when he dies, it's actually being calculated based on exactly when he dies. And I'll bring this into the scene here. All right, so down to 2, you saw the number change to 2. That's great. And then remaining lives, 2. Boom. And then after a minute, it's going to go back to the scene. And of course, remaining lives, 2. And that's great. I think that feels a little more like intentional. The other way, it would work, and I can really probably make it work, but I think I want to go for simplicity. Say, boom, player died, that was reduced to 1. This scene will transform to this scene, and then remaining lives, 1. And then it goes, boom, back into the scene, and we're good to go. Nice. All right, great. So the next thing I think for this video, what we should do is increase this number. All right, so we're going to need to get closer to the scene. So I'm going to double click on them guys and hover around. So what I want to do is create something that increases that number. Okay, so what I'm going to do is create a trigger, game creator, trigger. And, you know, when you're in a game like a platforming game, you lose lives, but every blue moon you might come across that one floating item, and that item is going to give you some life, right? So what I want to do is create a trigger that does that. So instead of on start, we probably want to do something like on player enter. And then instead of an action, I'm thinking we need a condition. And the reason is because this number 3 here, we don't want it to go to 4. So if this is our base number, the highest number, we don't want it to go higher than that, right? So what I'm going to do is create a condition, and this condition should say something like if the variable number is, if the variable player's lives is equal to 3, then I'll create an action, and this action will basically be a debug message for now. And we'll just say lives at max. So basically, that's pretty much where it's at. The lives are currently at max. We can't go higher. So this is going to set basically that value for us, max value. Okay, and I'm thinking we could probably use an like a stats attribute, but let's just do it this way, just in case maybe you don't have stats, right? What if you're not using the stats module or something like that? So let's just go ahead and do it with core. All right, so if players live is equal to 3, then display this in our debug. And debug is basically our console messages here. Else, we need to do something here, right? So what we want to do here is do a variable add. We can do a variable add. We can also do, let's see, we can do a math as well. So we can do the value +1, right? But for now, let's just do a variable add. So we can do this variable lives 1. So all this is doing, all this action is literally doing is doing players lives +1, which is kind of the same as the other one, but that's fine. We'll just do this and see how this works out. All right, great. So this should work, and we have our trigger. So let's find it in our scene. So that's our trigger. So basically our player needs to walk within this space here. Now we can't see it when I don't have it selected, and so we need to have something represented. So what I will do is create an empty game object, or a not an empty but a 3D mesh. And what I'll do is create a maybe like a capsule like that, maybe. All right, and I'll take this trigger and I'll put it in the capsule. So now it's a parent of the capsule. Now when I move the capsule, of course, it's going to move the trigger, and that's fine for now. So I'm going to select the trigger and put it where the capsule is. And again, this is just temporary stuff for the moment. Now the capsule size, I want to scale it down to like something small, like even smaller than that, maybe like 0.25, something small, like a thing. And then the trigger itself, I'll just make the radius like that. So then it kind of envelops the whole thing. Cool. So something like that. So if the player comes into contact with that, it should register. All right, great. All right, so I'm gonna move this down like that, like so. And all right, cool. All right, so we can just do something like that. And on the capsule, I want to actually turn off the collider on the capsule. We don't want it to have any type of collision or anything, so that's fine. All right, so our player should run into that. It should work out pretty good, right? So let's go ahead and do it. And I'm pretty sure, just already thinking about it, if the player selects a capsule, it shouldn't destroy because I didn't set it up to. So right now we have 3. So if we were to run into this capsule, of course nothing happens. And the reason is, as you see here in the bottom left corner, lives at max. So you can't increase that number. So that's great. That's good. So what I'll do is go ahead and get killed there. And let's go to the spider. And he'll beat us up. One more hit. Ah, he moved. All right, cool. Down to 2. Player died. Great. All right, so remaining lives 2. So that lets us know as a player that the remaining lives is 2. It's cool. All right, good. So our remaining lives is 2, but right in front of us, we have a capsule. And this capsule is going to increase that, right? Should it? Boom. So now we have 3. That's great. So that's exactly what we want. And if we were to go die again, everything should have been updated. Great. And let's just see that. And so as we hit, boom. So back down to 2, player died. Great. Remaining lives 2. Great. All right. And so we go back, and there you have it. So now we have 2 lives. And there's our capsule. Of course, our capsule is still there because we didn't destroy it. Also, we need to figure out a way to get rid of any scene items or that sort of thing. But that's a complicated thing that we might have to look at later. But for now, we can increase, and that's great. All right, so the next thing I want to think about is destroying that object. So what we want to do now is we only want to destroy it if we actually do the else. We don't want to destroy it just because you ran into it, right? If you run into it, it should simply say lives at max, it stays there. So we're going to add an action to the else statement here. So we want to type in the word DES, destroy. And so we want to destroy, and then we're going to select the capsule and move that here, just like that. And let's rename it to Life Capsule, right? Life Capsule. And that works. And so again, that should work out pretty good. And we also hit destroy after finishing. So I guess that could work too. But let's just leave it just like that. So cool. All right. So let's hit play and see what happens. Now, again, we should not be able to take this capsule. All right. So as soon as we run into it, nothing should happen. We have a life at max here at the very bottom left. So if we go into the guy, get beat up, one more hit, a couple more hits, and he'll come over here, won't he? Boom, player died. Reduced to 2, and scene changes, remaining lives 2. All right, I gotta try harder next time, right? And then, all right, so there's our capsule, right? Beautiful capsule. Run into it. Cool, 3. And it destroyed. And so that works out pretty good. And so now we can't get it again because it's out the scene. And that works out great. All right. So hopefully that works out for you guys. I'm wondering if hopefully, that is effective enough. Now, in terms of how the graphics and things happen, we want other things, right? We want the capsule to kind of float up and down. We want it maybe to spin. We also probably don't want it to look like a capsule. We want it maybe to be like a floating head or some type of icon that we created, something a little bit more creative than that. But for now, again, we're all working with making sure that things are just working properly. And so I think we want to keep it with that. And I think that's going to be it for this particular video. I didn't want it to go too long. In the next video, we'll do a similar thing, but we're going to do it for the health, to increase the health. All right, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. To stay up to date on the latest 3D platforming tutorial, feel free to subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support, you can find me on Patreon, or of course, you can hit me up on Discord. I like to talk about whatever project you guys are working on. Of course, thanks for hanging with me. Your support is always appreciated. As always, remember, never give up and keep moving forward. Peace.